Welcome to Women Wanting Women, where we explore topics that matter to women like us. We talk about being a woman, attracting women, and becoming more powerful women by developing more self-confidence and always reaching for the next level in our self-actualization. I'm your hostess, lesbian love coach Jordana Michelle. And if you're interested in finally finding the woman of your dreams, so you can be best friends who learn and grow together, share dreams together, have adventures together, and share passionate intimacy together, then also check out my website, womenwantingwomen.com, because it's packed with free resources that can help you. For example, there are free quizzes you can take, including one that will tell you what might be standing in your way of finding love, and another that will tell you what qualities the woman of your dreams will find most attractive about you when you meet her. There are free video tutorials you can watch that explain why women do the things they do and how you can navigate the frustrating world of lesbian dating with confidence, even if you're feeling lonely and desperate. There are free guides you can download to learn the secrets of how to avoid rejection, heal from heartbreak, and find epic lesbian love. And there's a free matchmaking survey you can fill out in case I already know the woman of your dreams. All of that is available now on womenwantingwomen.com. And if you want lesbian dating advice from me more often, follow me on Instagram at jordana.michelle. But before we go any further, I have a question. How do you handle rejections and being objected to in your personal and professional life? And how do you remain patient while others are being unreasonable? I talk about all this and more with queer entrepreneur Lauren Jones, founder of AlterNew Media, a mission-driven marketing company Lauren founded with her wife, Nadia. You can learn more about Lauren Jones on Instagram at oracle01010_. But before you do, stick around for this really inspiring conversation about the journey Lauren went on to get where she is today. Lauren, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to dive deep into some questions and give you some answers.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have this conversation. I mean, you're like the embodiment of why I do the work that I do, because the reason we connected is you found my work online and you're such a badass and so cool. So I'm so excited to show you to my audience and so honored that you were a part of my audience. And that's how we found each other.
Oh, yeah, it's an honor. Yeah, in 2015, when I was going through a breakup, I stumbled upon your content and it really resonated with me and it really taught me a lot of new things that I wouldn't otherwise know. So I really appreciate your platform and you're sharing your experiences in dating and mating and all the things.
And I so appreciate you reaching out to me because, like I said, you're exactly the kind of awesome person that I love being friends with in the first place. And it's just so cool that's how we ended up connecting. So why don't we start by you introducing yourself and just telling about the work that you do, the company you built.
Okay, so I'm Lauren Jones of AlterNew Media. It's a company that I co-founded in 2016. It's a purpose-driven marketing and media company. We also do publicity. We've worked with many companies all over the world. I've had the pleasure of operating and owning this business with my wife, Nadia Rousseau. We love to work with mission driven companies and companies that run the gamut of technology, media, medicine, you name it. We've worked on many different verticals. So I've really been honored to be part of this journey with Nadia, and we love doing what we do, and we've grown the company from us two to then three people and then all the way up to 15 and 20. We've since downsized, but that's just the nature of business. But we're going to continue to grow and keep going. And we really want to eventually become a holdings company down the road. So that's basically me and my company, AlterNew Media, and Nadia in a nutshell.
It's so cool to have gone from 2 people to eventually getting to the point where you had 20 people working with you, even if you did end up dialing that back down. That's so extraordinary, and all since 2016. And it's so great that you're able to do that in what you call purpose-driven marketing, so that you're
working with the kinds of humans that are really making a difference in this world, whether it's like you said, tech or media or medicine. That's really so exciting.
Thank you.
For people who think that such a feat is out of reach, what are some of the biggest challenges you had to overcome to get to where you are, to get to this?
I would say objection, rejection. Those are two major obstacles in part of the nature of business that I had to kind of get used to and, overcome objections, especially when trying to close deals or convince someone of something they're not normally used to or have no idea what they're diving into when it comes to branding and marketing themselves online, or traditional marketing routes that they may not have sought out before, because there's concerns of, is this going to drive results? Am I going to have an impact in my business for the positive? Am I going to make sales? Those are all, am I going to do conversions? Those are all things that people take in consideration when reaching out to us. And I've learned and grown drastically in that area of getting people to close the deal and locking the deals and getting them to onboard to utilize our services. Another thing, a major challenge I would say, is getting the right people on a team has been very difficult. Some people are just in it to get a paycheck. Quite honestly, unfortunately, some people don't under they underestimate the level of work that they need to do and what they need to achieve, or there's an element of, unfortunately, laziness that I've encountered. And that's just all about, retraining and training and reinforcement. Those are all very important things that I found have a positive impact in team building and maintaining a really strong, solid group of people that you can count on and trust. Another obstacle I would say that I still struggle with is just shyness. So I've been putting myself out there more, especially in March. I've been going to a lot of networking events, and I recently did my first panel. So I was a panelist for a Women's Day event that I was co hosting with Nadia. And I was very intimidated by the whole process of being asked questions in front of a group of people. But that's something I'm still working on. It's a work in progress, because I would love to be, more forward facing. And I know my wife emphasizes the importance of being, a face forward founder as opposed to a faceless founder. So I don't want to be in that realm of like not having a face or a voice to my own company and doing things kind of the old fashioned way, because that just doesn't work in today's world, especially with social media and all the different platforms that so many of my competitors or collaborators are already on.
And especially because probably a lot of what you're working with your clients on is them having their own face forward in their purpose driven work that they do.
That's correct. Yeah.
And so in some ways you have to walk your own talk. And the truth is the world deserves to get to hear from you because you have so many amazing things to share. I love what you started with when you called it objections and rejections. It's interesting because we hear a lot about rejection, but we don't always think about that if you can overcome objections, you can maybe avoid that rejection.
Precisely.
Yeah, I like the way you put that. Do you have any advice about getting objections in the world and and how exactly to convince someone that those objections aren't a good reason to eventually reject?
I think it's just like basically researching what that person is doing in their business, and kind of already having a handle on what they're doing in terms of like having case studies. I always present my case studies, because some people aren't sure if I'm able to commit to and complete what they're asking me to do if I haven't worked in that genre or niche. So I like to have a lot of case studies readily available, and I have a huge number of case studies from different industries worldwide. So I always present that. If there's any objections, well, have you ever worked with a company that's building tech apps or mobile apps, or what have you? So whatever it is, I always present something, and I always know where to go. I have like very organized set of folders that I can turn to. Testimonials are also very important that I use to leverage. So, basically testimonials, case studies, those are very strong and powerful against objections.
I think you're also just describing being super prepared in advance. You're not just going in somewhere winging it.
Exactly.
You've thought through in advance
Exactly.
a lot of this stuff, which people can that can apply to anyone, no matter what area of work they're in.
And when I don't have experience in a certain realm, I'll just be honest and say, I really don't have experience here, but I'd like to gain experience. I'd like to grow, and I'd like to for us to work together and collaborate so that I can learn and I can, make things happen for your company. And that's also resulted in me gaining the experience and gaining the exposure and getting the testimonial that I need to continue to get more clients in that same realm.
I love it. And what's also interesting is not only were you talking kind of on the one hand about objections being raised to you, but then sort of when you're the person making the decision in terms of team building and how do you get the right person and how do you know whether or not they're underestimating the amount of work that they'll have or how much work they're willing to do as you're building that team, and then you're sort of having to see that in other people. It's really interesting. Has your position in sales given you any insight into other people as they're trying to sell you on their value as potentially a team member or in any other realm?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question. Definitely, especially in the hiring process. Some people are trying to obviously sell themselves, and sometimes, it doesn't land, sometimes it does. And I'll give them, constructive feedback so that, maybe next time they can try a different approach with maybe me, or it doesn't have to be me, it could be another prospective employer. Okay, so yeah, on LinkedIn, sometimes I'll get some messages that are just way off, like, hi, I'm trying to reach out to women over, 50 or 65. And I'm like, I'm not your demographic, and I'll give the constructive feedback. Like, I won't get angry or anything. But yeah, I've had that on LinkedIn.
And then it has to be a bot because who would have looked at your picture and
Exactly. It has to be a robot or something, or they'll say, like, I help entrepreneurs do X. And I'm like, well, I don't, there's no indication that I need that right now, or it's just really strange. Yeah. So on LinkedIn, I will tell people, hey, this messaging isn't really resonating with me and may not be resonating with other people that you're sending it out to. So you might want to work on your retargeting.
it's interesting that could in some ways one might think it could be a waste of your breath, but in other ways you could be getting yourself a client because your business works on helping people spread the word. So who knows? It could end up landing you that constructive feedback could end up landing you a whole new client.
No, that's true. Yeah, I always try to leverage that too and say, let me know if we can be of any assistance to help you with your retargeting and messaging.
And in terms of when you talked about the shyness and trying to be a face forward founder as opposed to a faceless founder, and now that you're starting to do this networking and that you put yourself out there as a panelist for the Women's Day event, would you say that it gets any easier or you just get more used to the uncomfortable, or how would you say it's gone for you?
I would say that it starts to get a little easier every time with practice. It definitely isn't my strong suit or something that I prefer to do. I love to be behind the scenes. I like to be behind the camera. I like to be kind of like the Oz like figure that Nadja likes to call me in the distance, being that grand sage or something, giving me information and putting it out in the ether. So I get a little intimidated, I guess, by just being forward facing and on camera and all the things.
I can relate to that. It's uncomfortable putting our ideas out there, but you're lucky you have a partner that's pushing you, and it's great that you've been starting to do it because I'm sure you've. I mean, how has the response been? Actually, you tell me. How has the response been now that you've been putting yourself out there more?
Yeah. I, will tell people, be transparent, say, I'm a little bit shy. Sorry about that. And they're like, oh, you don't need to apologize. You did a great job. You don't need to worry or overthink it. So that's been the feedback from most people, which I'm really happy to know because you just never know. And I just like to know the truth about how I'm behaving or interacting with others, or I could be louder, or whatever, constructive criticisms or feedback that I need to know so I could be better at being face forward.
You have a really easy, gentle energy, and you're super easy to talk to. So I'm sure other people have found the same, and have been appreciative of the fact that your face is now forward.
I appreciate that. And I've been told that a lot too, that I'm very peaceful. But then some people are like, well, you're so peaceful. Let me see how to make you upset. I'm like, no, don't do that.
Were they kidding or were they legit being aggressive?
I don't know if it was a microaggression or not. It could be either or. I'm not sure.
People are funny.
They are funny. But I appreciate your command. You know, you have a really commanding presence online. I really like that. I really appreciate the videos you put out there. They're really awesome and kind of give me more confidence to speak. You seem very confident online and on video for sure. So I appreciate that.
Thanks. I'm not always confident in these things, especially because what I'm writing a lot of the time are just my opinions, and I don't want to offend anyone. I want to be helpful, and it's just there's so much controversy in the world right now, and even
Oh
when you're trying to
yeah.
help one type of person, you could be saying things that don't apply to a whole other group of people, and I haven't found it always easy to put out content, and so I can understand. And I'm not a shy person, but this isn't easy.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. So what did you have to evolve in yourself and get better at to be good at what you do today?
Definitely patience is a virtue. I have to become really patient. I have to be patient with clients that may be unreasonable. I have to be patient with unsupportive family members who may not want to invest in my business, who may not want to come on, as a partner in my business, who don't see, maybe don't see the value or see too much risk, even though I've been at it for 8 years now, like you said. Definitely, dealing with being patient with my team. We've had different people come and go. Some people are committed for the long haul, some people are committed for the short haul. They're just there for a season. So, navigating internal peace and being patient with individuals is something that I've struggled with, but I'm starting to overcome that. And what has been really helpful has been meditating in the morning, deep breathing, breath work, definitely going to the gym every day without fail, taking long walks and getting away from the computer here and there, not just staring at the screen all day. When I first started, I used to go directly to my computer and I would just, start working, but that's changed. Now I take time for myself in the morning. I take at least an hour to do what I need to do before I get started on answering client inquiries and emails and talking to the team and, even talking to Nadia about the business. So that's been helpful.
Yeah, no doubt. Reserving that space for you and Nadia to have a personal life outside of just the life you have together. But I can understand too when you were just getting started, feeling like you're just drawn to the computer. When I was first starting my business, it was hard to think of anything else as well in the times that I've started businesses.
So morning cuddles are an essential.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Non negotiable. So, what do you know about having patience with unreasonable clients or unreasonable clients in general? What can you teach us about that?
Oh, wow. Okay. So sometimes people have unrealistic expectations or they really are, delusional. Like maybe I've had, people inquire and their music just wasn't up to par, but they want to be famous. And I'm like, honest criticism here, let me listen to your music first before we just start throwing a press release out there and saying the latest, artist is coming out with X or the latest artist is releasing this song or releasing this album or starting, having an event, whatever that is. I like to listen to the music first so that I can honestly give them a critique and say, hey, this isn't high quality production or this is excellent. This is definitely something that is sellable. So I like to be very honest with prospective clients. And then you will, get clients that are just like they want to reach certain goals that it's like you're not there yet. You can't get the cart before the horse. You have to do things in a certain sequence. And most of them understand, some people still just want to do things their way. And with those clients, it's either, working the strategy that we're putting together for them or, cutting ties altogether if it's just too unrealistic because I don't want to put my reputation, on the line or, you know, make a claim that I can't make happen. I give realistic expectations of results from the offset. I say, hey, it's not feasible to grow on Instagram in 2 days from 0 to 500,000 followers unless those are fake followers. Now there are people who really literally want fake followers, and I'm like, hey, that's not a good strategy because they don't convert. If they're not real, this is just for vanity. This is not for any real conversion or in making any sales.
I can see why clients having unrealistic expectations can be a huge problem, and then it puts you in a conundrum because on the one hand, you want to get business, but and your competitors might be willing to sell them just about anything,
Oh yeah,
but you can get the deal but end up with them being more trouble than they're worth.
exactly. And I want a case study. Like with everybody that I work with, I like to get a testimonial and a case study. So I like to hear good feedback. I like to hear that, we helped you reach attainable goals. But yeah, some people come up with very odd goals that, don't make sense. And then some people are receptive to that. They're like, oh, I never thought of it that way. I never thought that fake followers doesn't equal, money or income or brand awareness because it's not real.
Yeah, absolutely. People are funny like that.
Yes. It's psychology, really.
And when you talked about your reputation, what's cool about good clients is not only do you get paid for doing the work, but then their success becomes a whole other sort of payment in some way to you if that can then be used as evidence of the contribution you were able to make to their bottom line. And so it's a double win.
Exactly. And especially with influencers, I tell them, you're going to want to clear out any fake followers that you have in your social media. You're going to want to make sure that the followers that you gain or that I can help you gain are legitimate, because when you have brands coming to you, they're going to, well, not all, but most likely, they will check into your following and see if your followers are real before they lock any deals with you. So if you don't have real followers on your platform, that could result in you not getting the type of brand deals that you want to get as an influencer. And you want to make it as an influencer. So that's very important to have a real, legit following base, especially when you're starting out.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes in when I'm trying to help clients from the perspective of a lawyer, sometimes they don't know what they want and they get stuck. It's hard for me to, especially when they're starting a business, if they haven't worked things out between them as partners, it's just that much harder for me to then help them draft the agreement they want to draft. What are some ways that your clients get stuck, and what are some things you do to help them get unstuck um, when they're when you're co-creating with them?
Oh, sure. Yes. A lot of the times when I've encountered that, the client is getting stuck with maybe not having the level of press that they would like. Maybe they've gone to other press agents or agencies and it wasn't, the level of press that they'd like to get, or they want to build their press, or they're stuck on that, or maybe they've been cheated even, unfortunately. And I tell them, it's not advisable to pay your way into the press. It's better to build an organic profile, and I help them do that. I help them with growing their portfolio for press. Other ways that they've been stuck has just been with social media. They haven't been able to grow. They've plateaued at a certain level and they'd like to take it to the next level. So usually we incorporate, maybe more publicity or influencer marketing to bring more attention and more of an audience to what they're trying to do and try to grow their audience.
Is that paying for press in a way too? When you're getting publicity from influencers, is that I guess that's different from.
It's different. When I mean pay to play, it's like literally paying journalists off to get into magazines or different articles written about them. And when I'm giving them service, it's basically for the writing aspects, for my writing, and then sending it to the publishers and journalists. That's different from just paying the publication directly to be in that publication. Then it's more like an advertorial, or what I do is an editorial. What they're doing is more of an advertorial. So that's different.
Definitely different. And you're also connecting them directly with social media influencers.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. To promote their products and services. Usually nano influencers or micro influencers. to help them grow their social media. So that's different from the press. That's for their social media. That's another thing that we do to help them grow online. We will connect them with influencers that can bring their audiences to their page.
And do you have these individual relationships with these various influencers, or is it more just a strategy you have for reaching relevant influencers in whatever category?
We have a huge roster of different influencers that run the gamut from dance to modeling, makeup, acting. We have a huge roster of different influencers that we're able to pull from, and they'll attend events for us, they'll do commercials for us, they'll do ads for us, they'll do a number of different things that we request. But sometimes the influencers that we have aren't exactly what the client is looking for, so we'll have to procure different influencers that are niche specific to their brand.
And then do you find them directly or through other agencies?
We reach out directly because we don't want to necessarily go to another agency to find them because we have our own agency. We like to use certain platforms that have a house a lot of different influencers, and we check their engagement rates, and we check other campaigns that we've done in the past, and we'll vet them based on certain criteria, and we'll bring that to the client, and they'll say, oh, hey, this is, this person's great for my brand, I would love to get more people from their audience to buy. And it's like a whole thing of like affiliate marketing that we'll have them do, or different referrals or things of that nature.
And there are sites for that?
There are sites, yes, that we use, like influence.co. There's a whole list of different ones.
That's cool.
Oh, Collabster is another one.
Collabster, like
Yes.
collaboration.
Yes, exactly.
Cute.
So that's a little bit different from like the press,
Yeah,
the
for sure.
influencer marketing. Yes. For our influencers, we like to build an entire deck for them. So that deck is basically a quote from them, like a personal quote, what they've worked on, what they've done in the past, their biography, pictures of them, images of them, different things about them that we think the client should know or the client will appreciate about them. And then we'll present those decks to them as well as necessary. Then we also send it out to people that we think might want to hire them for influencer marketing.
It's so great. You love showing up as beautifully prepared, and I'm sure that goes a really long way.
I'd say so. Yeah, I'd say that like having a deck, having case studies compiled, having testimonials compiled, those are all integral to overcoming objections and thwarting rejection.
Yeah, for sure. Just to shift gears a little bit, one thing that I think is really cool about you and your wife that I think people need to understand, especially in this world where lesbians can have so much fear of dating bisexual women because of the fear that bisexual women aren't going to commit as much to lesbians. What's cool about you and your wife is you both identify as bisexual. So I was wondering if you could just riff on that and just speak up for all the bisexually identified women in this world and the fact that you and your wife are happy and committed and together and have been for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't say that dating a bisexual woman necessarily equates to them leaving you for a man, which is a stereotype that, we hear a lot about. Yeah, I wouldn't say that that's the end all be all, and that it is possible to marry a woman as a woman who is bisexual. That's not an impossible feat.
I know a lot of bisexual women who are married to other women. They are committed, they are happy. And I think that's just an important thing to reinforce, especially in this world where it's hard enough to find somebody.
Oh, yeah.
And if we're going to be rejecting a huge percentage of our population just because they might also be able to date a man if you weren't the one they were dating,
Correct. Yeah, that's so true.
I think in some ways it shoots ourselves in the foot when it doesn't need to happen that way.
Yeah, you eliminate a lot of the dating pool. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we've talked in the past, you've told me about some difficulties with your family, especially in the early years when you were with Nadia. But with the successful life that you have right now, I'd be really curious how you've managed your difficult family and overcome that as an adult.
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, it's definitely been a rough ride for the long haul. That's for sure. My parents, I believe, are both narcissists. My dad was a gambling addict. My mom is very neglectful and has a very bad smoking habit and not the best eating practices and didn't have the best parenting practices, I would say. Both parents are very neglectful. Like there would be times where my dad would leave my brother and I in the car while he would go out and gamble, and he would have the car on like emergency mode and say if anyone comes up to the car, say that I went to go get your dad went to go get jumper cables. So there's been a lot of neglect and abandonment in my childhood. There's been a lot of like exposure to things that children shouldn't see. There's been just a lot of bizarre antics and behaviors that I have not adopted into my lifestyle, and I have completely rejected. Honestly, I find how they treated me to be very deplorable and not something that I would want my children to experience if I have children. Not something that I want to dwell on for the rest of my life or be affected by in any way or to affect my daily routines or what I do or to affect my business decisions and things of that nature. So to overcome that, I just don't see them as often as most people would see their parents. That's one thing. I do not engage them when they want to have an argument or fight or do something dysfunctional. They were very neglectful, so they really didn't care about my sexuality or anything, it seemed. Or my mom would say hypocritical things, like she seemed to like gay men very much, I guess because she relates to them on some level or something. Like I think she thinks she's a drag queen or something, I don't know. Or she loves drag queens, but she doesn't like women who like women for some reason. Doesn't make sense to me. But she's very into like the trans community and the gay man community, but for some reason she doesn't like she's a cherry picker. You can't be like that. She's from an older generation, so maybe there's something to that. She comes from the old South. She is Creole, and my dad is African American. So I understand that there are some differences in culture and experience, especially when it comes to all the things like racism and discrimination. So there's definitely some nuances there that might, manifest as a very dysfunctional relationship. But I try to not let any of that affect me, and I try to move on and be as strong as I can possibly be, even though it was very tough.
Terrifying, I would say, being left in a car, feeling abandoned with parents that are narcissists and a dad that's gambling. There's so little security in that. And the way that you've been able to just sort of reject that and not engage in their dysfunction and just not allow them to see you is really, really strong. And the way you've been able to maintain such great energy and build such a beautiful life for yourself outside of that. It must be just so infuriating to, having to hear your mom liking some parts of, being totally accepting of some parts of our community. Not that it shouldn't, like any, why should someone not like trans people and gay guys? We're not saying that they shouldn't like trans people and gay guys, but, why them and then still be anti women being with women must be very, very frustrating.
It was very frustrating indeed. Like I don't understand it. It's just part of the nature of the bizarre behavior that they would exhibit on a daily basis. It's just very unpredictable. You never know what to expect. Sometimes it's comical though, and sometimes it's not comical, especially when it comes to that. Definitely wasn't comical, but some aspects I can laugh at now.
Yeah, you're lucky. And it seems to me also a lot thanks to the amazingly solid relationship that you and Nadia have and have had for so long, especially as just partners in crime in everything you've done. You haven't just been hooking up since you were little, but really sort of working side by side. And the stories that Nadia told me. And yeah, I love your guys' story. I really do.
Thank
I
you. I
think it's so
appreciate
cool.
that. Yeah, and then exposure to like other families and people too has also been helpful because it helped me understand what's normal and what's not normal. And then, of course, therapists and listening to different therapists online and seeking counseling and stuff like that has also helped me to understand that that was not a normal childhood.
For anyone who's in a situation like yours but doesn't have maybe the money to necessarily pay for their own therapist, what are some free online resources that have been helpful for you that you could point other people to?
I would say a lot of different therapists on YouTube have been really helpful to me. I really like to listen to Dr. Ramani. I like to listen to The Crappy Childhood Fairy. And I love Patrick Teahan's work too. It's often comical, so it adds a little bit of comedy to it so you can really kind of get over some of the wild things that the narcissists and the people with borderline personality that aren't seeking help might say to you.
That's great. So Dr. Romani, The Crappy Childhood Fairy, and Patrick Teahan.
Yes.
I'll have links to those. And do you have any suggestions about the type of breath work that you do or the type of meditation or any resources that you like for that?
Well, yeah, I like to do box breathing, which is 4 seconds in, 7-second hold, and then 8 seconds out.
That's cool because it's double out. It relaxes you more, right?
Yes, it lowers your blood pressure. It, kind of brings you back into your body. And it's better than, hyperventilation or not breathing at all, which people forget to breathe, even though it's an essential aspect of living and surviving and thriving. I would say Adam J. Story is really good. I like his information in the motivational doc on YouTube.
And that's for breathing.
Yes.
And is this something you'll just sit down alone and do, or is it something that you'll be in the middle of a situation, you'll feel frustrated, and then you'll employ the breathing technique sort of in the middle of your day, or is it something you do separately as a separate practice?
It's very versatile. First thing in the morning, it's the first thing I do, the box breathing, 4 seconds in, 7 seconds hold, 8 seconds out. And yeah, if I'm encountering a frustrating situation, I'll also employ the box breathing. That's correct.
I'm not as good at setting time aside to sit and do breathing exercises, but I do find myself if I'm feeling crappy in any given moment that breathing as deep as I can really can turn things around. It could be like a drug.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and I've been told about the cold plunges, and I may want to try something like that too in the future.
I'm always freezing, so I don't know if that'll be good medicine for me, but you can let me know how it goes.
Because I think it's something called like a diver's reflex. Like sometimes I'll put cold water in my face and on my back, and I'll feel relaxed and calm. That really works too.
Amazing. So, just another question similar to the prejudice that lesbians tend to have against bisexual women. I've heard a lot of women feel a strong prejudice against anyone who has left them in the past or hurt them in the past. And while I do, in some ways, agree that there are certain types of breakups that are kind of unforgivable, I think you're in a that I don't think there's a one size fits all, and I think everything is should be judged in its own context. And you have such an incredible relationship with your wife, but you did have a period of time when you were separate, you had separated, and you had to get to the point where you trust her again and give it another try. So I'd be curious to hear your perspective, or just sharing with anyone who has a partner who had at one point broken up with them and is now wanting to get back together, and your thoughts on whether they're a Nadia that deserves that second chance or when they may not be.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I would say, it was hard to revet Nadia. It took some time. I thought that we would never get back together. It was nothing that I could fathom at all. I was dating a lot with different people, but nothing really seemed to work out. I was casting a wide net too. And a lot of the problems with dating other people or getting into a relationship with other people was definitely the distance. But Nadia and I were still within each other's orbit. So we were orbiting each other still. And then I eventually moved in with her at some point, because I was kind of struggling a lot with finding the right jobs. And I was just tired of my landlord and things of that nature. And then just spending time with each other and getting to re-know each other again and getting to meet each other as in a different state, I would say helped us to fall in love again. Because, before, I guess things were kind of stale. And so when we went out on our own, we got more experiences in terms of career, in terms of dating, in terms of meeting new friends, and just kind of seeing our likes and dislikes and learning more about ourselves and being on our own, because we've been together for so long without any breaks or without any, time away from each other. Because part of, I wouldn't say the reason for us to be together was, survival, but there were elements of survival that we had to do because we did not come from very supportive families. So we were extremely close, probably closer than most couples, because I would say a lot of, not everybody, of course, but most people have, help or, really close friends that they can count on. And neither of us really had that. So,
You had each other
yeah,
since you were
exactly.
16,
Since she was
right?
16, yeah,
Yeah.
and I was 18.
Yeah. And so you were each other's everything, and you had worked together too in so many situations, right?
Exactly.
Now, when you were re-meeting, were there certain things you looked out for? Like were there red flags you were looking out for? Were there any red lines or red flags or anything that you were using to evaluate whether or not you could trust her as you were getting back into that relationship?
Well, just like, not listening to me when I would warn her about a person or something like that. That was definitely a red flag. Just saying one thing and doing another, that was another thing that was kind of a red flag that I would kind of gauge, to see how that would go. And I think she had said right before we got back together again that she had a soulmate or something that she was in love with, and that she had a soulmate. And I was like, are you sure that's your soulmate? Because it doesn't seem like you have anything in common with this person. But, whatever, to each his own, and I kind of gray rocked her and gave her the silent treatment. And that seemed to make her want me more, I guess. I don't know, or want to try to work things out. So she evaluated and found, like, hey, no, that's not my person at all. We have nothing in common. She was just kind of glamored by this person. I don't really understand it, but
Not that I'm going to advocate for the silent treatment, but I do think that when it comes to women, sometimes trying harder and grabbing at them is less effective than just pulling back and letting them come to you. I think sometimes that pulling back to get a woman's attention is more effective than bombarding them with messages and comments and not giving them space.
yeah, maybe the silent treatment isn't exactly the correct word. Maybe it was more like a technique called gray rocking.
What does it mean?
It means where you're just kind of like, stepping back and just only giving very brief interactions and not giving the other person your time and all your energy. So just pulling back, basically, is what I mean. I wasn't completely silent with her, though.
Now, in now that you're back together, though, are those techniques that still get employed, would you say, between the two of you, or is that something that was only for when you were separated?
I would say that was only during the separation. Now I think we're more mature, most definitely. Many years have passed now. And so we've gotten past all that. And now it's more organic and natural and mature.
I think that makes perfect sense. You know, when you were still not sure if you could trust her again, it makes sense to have certain boundaries and limit the amount of you that you were willing to give to this person until such time as you were able to trust her again. And that's fine. But of course, I agree with you that probably in a mature adult marriage, there isn't that much room for limiting the emotionality between the two of you in that sort of way. So that sounds all pretty great.
Yes, because it was very volatile, with the breakup and everything and being left for a coworker. It was quite shocking for me.
Yeah, especially after being each other's everything for so long.
Exactly.
Yeah, that sounds really tough. Do you have any advice for people going through heartbreak like that or losing someone they thought was their everything? I guess in your situation, you got her back, which not everyone can look forward to necessarily.
Yeah, it's definitely not something that's going to happen for everybody because people grow and change and they move on. That's definitely advice that I would give people to try to move on from breakup that ends in such an ugly way. Try to put yourself out there. I know it sounds easier than what it is, but try to use programs like Jordana Michelle's. Read her advice and watch her YouTube and buy, anything that she has to help you overcome and relearn how to date, especially if you've never dated before, which was my case. I never really dated anybody. People just kind of, whenever I just kind of, people would come up to me and I'd just be in a relationship, basically. That's what I'm used to. But
Lucky.
moving to a different city, and there's so many people out there, so many options out there, you kind of have to put yourself out there and date and try to stand out, and it can be difficult. So you need a guide for sure. And Jordana was a great guide.
That's so kind of you to say, but I think it's also really significant the fact that to the extent that you did get your partner back, you didn't just stand there begging her to come back. You picked yourself up, you dusted yourself off, you learned new skills, you put yourself out there, and you didn't just go running back to her the minute that she tried. You kept certain emotional distances and certain boundaries and didn't change things until such time as you felt really safe to do so. So I think it's all pretty extraordinary.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I, employed some of the things that you talked about and just different dating coaches and different resources that were free to access and different magazines and stuff like that. Once she and I kind of got towards a point of considering dating each other, considering going out to different things together, considering even getting back together for sure.
Do you have any examples of some of from when you were pursuing dating advice online, some of the best stuff that you learned during that time that you could share?
Definitely, like, not always expecting to be approached by people because some people may be just as shy as you are. I found cold approaching, just like not even know, it's kind of like cold calling, just like approaching people that you don't really know how they'll respond or you don't even know them, was very effective in getting dates and getting into relationships for sure. That's one thing.
Yeah, take a chance, say hi to strangers for sure.
Exactly. And maybe if that person that you approach may not be for romantic reasons, they might lead you to someone in their friendship circle that might want to date you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone in this world has something valuable that they could either teach us or share with us or someone they could introduce us to. Every single person is a hidden treasure. So it's always a good idea to be friendly to fellow humans whenever we can.
That's an excellent point.
So I want to be mindful of your time, but before we wrap, are there any other just pieces of wisdom or advice or things you just wish every woman could know about herself?
Oh, certainly. I would say don't underestimate your value. Don't underestimate your worth. You're definitely worth it. If you have naysayers in your family or friendship circles or acquaintance circles, don't give them any time of day to what they have to say about you that is negative, and try to remain as positive as possible. Every single morning, dedicate that first hour to yourself. Don't jump into work or jump into what the family's doing, unless it's an emergency, obviously, but try to make time for you and be there for yourself.
I think what you said about the naysayers is so important because they don't know. They're not more right than you. They don't actually have more information. So you just got to believe in yourself. And yeah,
Exactly. And I think there's like a really good commercial series right now. I don't know if you've seen it, but like on YouTube, there's a really good commercial series coming out from LinkedIn which shows people's parents being interviewed by LinkedIn, and they're saying things like, well, I don't know what she does. I don't really understand what marketing is. I don't really understand what newsletters are. And it just goes to show you that sometimes, parental units or friends or family members or coworkers, even, or even acquaintances, don't always understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. They don't get it, and that's okay. And you just got to do you at the end of the day, because if it's working for you, keep going. You don't have to listen to them. Oh, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you go to this school? Why didn't you do that? If it's working for you, why not? If it's not broke, you don't need to fix it, like the old cliches say.
Yeah. No one else can see your path. No one else knows what you know. No one else can understand what brings you joy and what you're meant to do. And listening to other people is not necessarily the way to get to where you're going, unless there's someone who's already gotten to where you want to go and you're just going to ask them some constructive tips for what they did.
Exactly. Yeah, because sometimes they just don't understand what you're doing. They just don't have a grasp of the concept in of itself. So it's not a matter either of them, being hateful towards you. It's just that they don't even understand the journey.
Yeah. And like you said about deserving, everyone deserves to take their best shots at their life. No one else can do it for us. So yeah.
Exactly. And they come from different generations, a different way of doing things that they're used to doing it their way. And they may not be tech savvy even. I've seen that. I've incurred that a lot where it's like, well, yeah, you don't understand because, there's certain parts of technology that you haven't grasped yet. And I can teach you if you want, but sometimes people are stubborn. They don't even want to learn.
Right. And don't want to see what's right in front of them. Well, you're an extraordinary person who's gone from with no help at all to build an amazing business with yourself and your partner, an amazing life for yourself. So, where can other women go to learn more about what you do and follow your work and continue to be inspired by your life?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I'd be happy to give that information. The name of my company is Alter New Media. It's ALTER and then newmedia.com. And my Instagram is Oracle, like the Oracle at Delphi. That's ORACLE 01010 underscore. And that is my Instagram. And then my business Instagram is Alter New Media, same spelling. And then you can find my wife and business partner, Nadia, on Instagram as Nadia Rousseau. That's NADYA ROUSSEAU.
And I will have links to all of that in the show notes. So go right ahead and follow Lauren, follow Alter New Media, follow Nadia, and keep up to what they're doing because they're amazing. And thank you so, so much for this awesome conversation and all the wisdom you shared. I'm super grateful.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a wonderful opportunity.
Thanks so much for listening. If you like this episode, please subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. And if you want lesbian dating advice from me more often, follow me on Instagram at jordana.michelle. Also, don't forget that Women Wanting Women is packed with free resources that can help you build your confidence and have more success with dating. While you're there, you can book a one-on-one coaching session with me to get my personal support in finding the love you long for. Until next time, keep remembering that hot lesbians are everywhere, that love is real, and that if you haven't already met the woman of your dreams, she'll be finding her way into your life in absolutely perfect timing. And I'll catch you next time on Women Wanting Women.